All right. Welcome. I'm Eric here with Tech Tips with Eric, the first live stream. And as expected, lots of technical difficulties today, but I think we've got it. I'm seeing some video here, and hopefully you're hearing my audio. Today I was planning on building a computer for my work at Awesome Classical Guitar. Finally got all the parts together. It took months to try to get a graphics card, and finally I found one, an open box special. Definitely not a 3090 or 3080 because those disappeared immediately. But so I'm going to build a Intel build with a Core i9 10900K processor, so kind of top of the line, and then kind of a lot of Asus ROG parts for the rest of the build. And then I also am going to talk about a really interesting charity that was brought to my attention by a friend of mine, Casey Kunish, and that's the frontotemporal degeneration organization. And so she's raising funds for that, to support that organization, to try to research and find cures for that disease. And so part of that challenge is apparently drinking a shot of hot sauce. So I'm going to get going a little bit first before I do that, because if I have to run away and get some water, then at least I'll have part of this build. But yeah, so I'm Eric Pearson, and this is our first live Tech Tips. And so let's start opening some boxes. First one I want to draw attention to is this slightly deformed box, and that is because the friendly Amazon folks apparently took a lesson from the Ace Ventura School of Shipping, and so it looked like this one got crushed in a door or something. I opened it up and it looks like it's okay, but you never know until you put it together, and if it starts spurting water out the pipes, then I guess we'll know. So yeah, this is a NZXT, really good water cooling company. I use their stuff on two of my other builds. An integrated cooler, so I have a lot of custom cooler stuff. This one is kind of all-in-one. The loop is closed, so you don't have to add water or do anything to it. But I'm just going to unbox some of that stuff just to see what we've got. Kind of check it out, since the box was kind of crushed. I don't see any obvious tears on the heat sink part here. So while I'm opening these, feel free to check the link. I believe there's links both in the Facebook and the YouTube stream for donating. You can sign up to Casey's team, and I believe today all the donations are matched up to the first $5,000 that are coming in. So if you want to donate, feel free to click on that. And so, like I said, I'm just kind of visually inspecting this integrated cooler, make sure nothing got cracked or broke. It looks pretty good. Let's see how the radiator looks. So this is a 360, 120 sized fans long, and that's only a 1 inch, pretty shallow one. But usually when you have that many fans wide, you don't need as wide of a one. We're also not cooling a lot, super overclocking. I'm not planning on overclocking this processor beyond the regular Intel Turbo overclocking profile. And so we're not going to go wild with the need for heat dissipation. So that looks pretty good. Got the new large Stream Deck. So unfortunately, I had plans to do a bunch of Stream Deck stuff, but I don't have long enough USB extensions to get over to my original computer area. So we're just going to go with a still shot for today. And so we won't get to that. Let's take a look at our case. So I'm going to set this Maximus over to the side. This being the most unwieldy part of this process. And so it's been a while, a few months. I believe this is a fractal case. Just really nice quality cases. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have any glass see-through panels, so we don't get to see all of our cool RGB devices, much to Vern's chagrin. I believe Vern's helping me out in the stream there. Whew. Alright, so fractal design R5 case. And I'm not sure how easily this will come out of the box. It's one of those movie magic scenarios where you get everything set up and then you go to the next table and it's all undone and ready to go, like the cooking shows. Good enough. So unfortunately, I don't have enough money for a second set of this build to be ready and staged, so we'll just have to go through it together. Instructions. All right, there it is. So, nice, pretty sleek case, plenty of USB ports and connections on top, and then a nice front panel that's usually is magnetically sealed there. There we go. And so these cases are nice. They have these padding, kind of noise reduction materials, so that it's fairly quiet when you have everything closed up, as opposed to a more open case design. So, you know, more than just looking good, it's kind of a nice silent box, especially if you're going to have 3-4 fans plugged into it. Let's see if I can pop the side open. Just see all the goodies it comes with. Oddly enough, the case sometimes has the most stuff in it that we have to deal with. All the different connections. So usually there's a nice quick release on these ones. See, it's got that noise reducing foam. I think these panels can come off too. Get that later. And so our fractal has, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different drive bays. There's the kit of all the hardware. And then plenty of space for our motherboard. So I'm going to set her down and just kind of plan out our build here. So the motherboard is probably going to be the second thing to go in once I make sure that we have the standoffs on here. Fortunately, I don't have the second camera. I couldn't get it to work. So, but in here, Yeah, we don't have the standoffs yet, so we have patterns of different tabs to screw down to. And so we'll have to look at the one that's for the full ATX motherboard, which is, I believe, what we have, not the extended. So those are hopefully in here. Yep, looks like we got all those. There's probably instructions somewhere, but that's no fun, so we'll just try to see if we can figure out what parts are what. And then the only other considerations we have sometimes is the length of your power supply. I don't think that'll be a problem with this one because we're not really putting anything else in that slot. And this box is made to hold extended ATX boards, and so we should have plenty of space. And then actually, because we do have a fairly large graphics card, if you had too long of a graphics card, you could butt up against the drive bays here. I don't think it's going to be a problem because it looks like we have plenty of space outside of the side of the card here, but we will do kind of a test fit just to make sure. And so notice I don't have the nice manufacturer's box for the graphics card because they've been sold out for months. And so getting them on the refurb or open box market is the only option. So I got this one from there. But if we go back and test fit, it is just barely able to fit. And so yeah, if this was another ½ inch smaller of a case, we would not be able to use this full-size graphics card. As you can see, it's just enough room. We'll get the power cables wrapped around. But that's going to be a little bit challenging because we're going to have to route all of our cables either under or over it. We won't be able to kind of do much going up through, and it may also get in the way of our motherboard power cable, depending on how thick it is. We'll get to that when we open up the power supply. We'll have to route that back to the back side of the case and then back out through the front on the lower side. So let's open the back up, because we're going to have to get to the business side of this. So the plan today, we started a little late, was to get whatever we can accomplish by 7 o'clock, because I have prior engagement. So if we don't finish by then, we'll pause and try to maybe reconvene tomorrow. Ooh, that one is tight. But either way, I will still drink the hot sauce, and that may be the end of today, depending on how I deal with that. There we go. And be careful to keep an eye on these case screws. They look a lot like the screws that hold the PCIe cards together and also other components inside, but a lot of times they're not the same. These have a little bit of a stem on them without threading, so they're meant to kind of sit in there and stay in the case. Should be able to slide it back. There we go. And so there's the business side of that case. So like I said, we'll probably have to route the motherboard power cable out and back under here to get it to fit. I'm going to put this card safely aside so it doesn't fall. And then grab our motherboard. It's actually a lot lighter without the sides on it. My guitar nails are failing me. So I promise I don't get ASUS components just because they look slick, but they are pretty cool looking. They have usually lots of lights and bells and whistles, but it's really for the speed of the PCIe lane connections, the fact this one has 3 16-lane cards, so we can have devices that demand that. So like our video ingest cards, obviously the graphics card will be in that top slot, and then future devices we might put in. So I wanted at least 3, if not 4, of those full slots. This one also is compatible up to 128 gigs of RAM, and so we got a kit from Corsair. This is 3200 megahertz matched, 4 times 32 gigabytes. So that's the most RAM I've ever put in a build. So this should have enough RAM to match the 10 cores, 20 threads of the i9 10900K chip. So this is kind of the flagship of the consumer chips for Intel right now. You could probably get more cores with their Xeon processor builds, but as far as kind of something for a desktop, it's about the best you can get. And so I'm just kind of playing out how we want to put this together. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stands for the case. Let's put some of this off to the side. I'm just checking to see if we have a couple more viewers. I'll wait till we get a couple more before I punish myself with a hot sauce, so we will keep to the task at hand. If Ian Tusky is there, I tagged him. He is the hot sauce maniac, and so I will definitely be challenging him to also take a shot of hot sauce, although he probably has much worse at his disposal than Frank's Red Hot, which is my Buffalo favorite. It's a good one for Buffalo. And then I've got some Cholula, which is really good stuff I've picked up since moving to Texas. I'm from Western New York originally, so I've been here almost 10 years. And they definitely like spicy food down here, but Frank's just has a special place in my heart. It's a certain flavor for buffalo wings, you just can't match it. So they give me exactly 8 standoffs, so I don't want to drop these. Let's tip this up here. So the 1, 2, 3, 4 center pin, 5, 6, 7, 8 pattern. Good. As is standard practice, I've already cut myself something sharp on the frame. It's good. The computer build demands a blood sacrifice, so get it in there early. Just double checking the layout. So the anodized or coating on this is a little sloppy, so these aren't going in perfectly, so I may get a wrench or a little bit to drive them in, strip that paint. Yeah, all of these ones in the back row need some help, so I think that's it. One more. Oof, yeah, let's go at it. All right, let me get a screwdriver. turn up my technical advisor here. Vern, can you hear me?
I can indeed, sir.
All right, so which hot sauce should we start with today?
Well, I have seen Cholula quite often. Frank's?
Frank's.
I had not seen Frank's before, so I know what Cholula was. I've heard the scream that Frank's may bring when it's ingested directly.
Have you ever drank Cholula directly before?
No, but my daughter is a big fan, and she tends to sometimes overindulge. She can kind of cry about that.
All right, well, let's, we'll do some Frank's here. Since I am coming up short on the tool I need to tighten these.
So is the plan to also use that as the heat sink compound, as long as it's the heating compound?
You know, I haven't tried it, but I guess any liquid that bridges that gap between the processor and the heatsink probably does something. I think I've seen people use mayonnaise, which is a horrendous idea. Don't do that, but
I don't know, I think toothpaste probably has better viscosity.
yeah. So I will not burden this build with trying hot sauce as a thermal compound, but maybe in the next one. But yeah, I'm going to have to go and scavenge for some pliers. So while I do that, let's get the shot ready here. I'm going to be loose on the definition of a shot. Suppose it should be 1 ounce, but whew. A little more. Ooh. That is certainly strong enough. And so, my first of at least 2 shots. So this is our Burn Your Mouth Challenge to support FTD. So take a look at the thread on the video here, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. There's a link if you want to donate, or if you just want to drink hot sauce and have an excuse to do that, Ian. And so I think I'm supposed to challenge 5 people. So I'm going to say Ian Tusky, Kenny Fabridius, I'll do Natalie Patch, and Jenny Lynn. And I need one more victim. I'm going to say, let's see, I'll say Greg James. He might like hot sauce. So here's my first shot of hot sauce for the FTD challenge. Casey, I blame you. Ooh. I don't know if water makes it better. Yeah, it might be worse. All right. Let's get back to it. All right, so I need to get some more cables for the oopsie. Sorry, I need to get something to screw those standoffs in with the motherboard standoffs here. So I'm going to open up the power supply. But first, make sure I didn't break that bottle of hot sauce. We're good. So let's move on to the power supply. I think in the future I want a wider workspace for building this computer. This desk is not 6 feet. So I chose Corsair, and I believe this is platinum, so that's its kind of quality rating. And so I've never had a problem with Corsair, never had them burn out or have any troubles. So I like those. There's probably other brands, but and then I always, there's on PC Part Picker is a really good tool to go and put all your build together and then see how many watts you might need. And I usually try to get around 50 or 60% of the total available. just in case. You don't want to be at the maximum limit of any rated for a piece of equipment, especially computer equipment. So if it's this many amps or this many watts, I don't want to be pushing that. And so maybe I needed 800 watts or something for this processor with all the other components factored in. And so I go quite a bit over. That also gives you future proof if you do end up adding a second graphics card or some other peripherals that are pretty power hungry. And so you won't ever have to worry about, tripping a fuse or whatever. Now this is one thing people may not realize is you can have I think it's an integrated power supply versus these custom ones where all of the cables are included, and so you kind of customize your needs. Some of the cheaper power supplies may have just exactly the number of connections coming right out of the back of the power supply and no more, and so you can't add an extra power supply, 12 volt or whatever. Whoopsie, no using that box to return. And so, if you're getting to this level of a 1200 watt power supply or these platinum, you don't have to worry about it. They'll all be kind of customizable. But just something to look out for. So it has interesting design there. Flips open. Cool. Lots of reading no one does. Cable we'll need. And then, notice they give you a bag full of all the cables you might need. We're doing a pretty simple build right now. We're not adding a bunch of extra stuff, so we'll probably just use a couple for the motherboard, the graphics card, and then this board probably requires extra power for that graphics card, and so you'll have to make sure you have a long enough cable to get up and around to the top of the motherboard, which is kind of a newer development with these really power hungry chips and cards and stuff. You'll have extra power, which you can use or not depending on the draw of your processor. Since we do have the 10900K version of the i9, I think it's 65 watts normally at the nominal version of that, but the K overclocked version puts 125 watts as their kind of rating, probably assuming that you're going to be at least overclocking it with a default profile, if not doing experimental overclocking. So that's why they have that option to give more power to the motherboard nowadays. So this is a nice, sleek, it's actually more compact than I thought it would be, power supply. And so we'll have tons of room in the bottom of this. And so we're just planning out the layout here a little bit. And so your cabling and everything is going to be on the inside of the case. And your switch and your power and all that on the outside. Sometimes it's confusing which side should go up or down. And so, check the manual, but also generally the intake for the air on these is at the bottom of the case, so you're not like sucking stuff in that can fall in there. And you'll have a flat surface that is where things are going to run on top of the motherboard. Also, you'll see the writing on this side is written right side up. So you have a flat surface on here like a table. That power switch and connection are going to be pointing out the back. And then it'll just kind of slide in there. And then we find the screws. So we give you a couple small hex screws. One exciting part about this build is I'm on a glass computer desk, and so if this gets too much weight on it, we may have some excitement. But yeah, so we just have 4 mounting points here. And each brand kind of uses different mounting points, so you'll see extra holes that don't necessarily have a place in the power supply. So just find which four line up and do that. So this is probably the, I don't know, 15th or so computer I've at least partially assembled, if not built from scratch. And really I just got into it because I wanted more upgrades and things than my laptop. I had a lot of Macs for a long time could offer, and there's not a lot of upgrade capabilities with Macs, and also you kind of have to buy it all in one versus PC build. You can kind of add things as you go, and so I would buy a component every month as I had the money, and so I didn't have to kind of cut corners. So get a really good motherboard and get another processor as I had the funds, and so I ended up building a really good rig that works well for gaming, streaming. That's what I'm streaming on right now. And, worked well for quite a few years. That was an i5, I think it's a 6600K overclock processor. And really works well up until the point of trying to stream while capturing more than one source for encoding. So I was capturing Zoom meetings and also maybe another source from an external RTMP stream. And so that encoding on top of all the other stuff in OBS was pegging my processor up to 100% when everything was going. And so it was just realizing that I need more cores and a little more speed to do that CPU intensive stuff. And then also the graphics card. I had a 970 NVIDIA, and this one is a 2080 Ti, so kind of the top of the line up until these new 3080 series that just came out last week. But that just gives us the opportunity to really offload a lot of the graphics rendering to that card. You can do hardware rendering and a lot of software we need to use. So great, so that power supply is now mounted. Just 4 screws, pretty easy. And it just sits there nice and snug. And so we'll be able to access the power connections and all that. I'm going to go rooting for players to cinch these down, but I think for today, just because we don't have the extra camera, and so we're not going to really get to be able to see down in there and see as we're placing the processor and the SSD. We have an M.2 Samsung hard drive, really fast. And so when we get to putting all these components on the motherboard, we really want to be able to see in there. So I think I'm going to cut us a little short today. Also, my stomach's starting to hurt. But I might grab that Cholula that fell. Let's see if I can get down there without losing my audio. Hooah. Ooh, there we go. We'll see what kind of heat this has. The Frank's is a nostalgic heat. Reminds me of hot wings and pizza in Buffalo. So, Cholula I mostly use to make michelada drinks. Something I've really grown fond of. And that's, what is it, clamato juice, Cholula, I think chili powder, with a nice light Mexican beer, like a Modelo, and a couple other ingredients, but it's really good with this hot sauce. So, just a reminder, in addition to half of a computer build today, this is also a fundraiser for the FTD, frontotemporal dementia cause, and so you can check on this stream in the in the information, we've got a donation link there. Click there if you are able to donate, or if you want to accept my challenge. Ian Tusky, Kenny Fabridius, Jenny Lynn, Greg James, and who's my other person? Oh, and Natalie Patch. You can also take on the challenge, but it's a shot of hot sauce and then helping out a good cause. And so I'm going to do one more, and we'll see how I survive this one. Ooh. Definitely different. Yeah, there's some different spices in that one than the Frank's. So that's probably more my speed. I was going to get some ghost pepper sauce, but I still want to have a good weekend, so I'm going to forgo that and leave that to my buddy Ian. But thank you for joining us. I'm going to drop off, and we'll probably try to come back tomorrow, if not Sunday, and finish up this building our Intel Core i9 rig here in a fractal case. But thank you so much, and check out those links in the link and in the description below, and we will talk to you soon. Eric signing out.